Each person is going to go one by one to present at the little podium, inshallah. They'll have about 2 minutes to present, and then they will face some difficult questions from us. Kidding, not too difficult, don't sweat. And then afterwards, inshallah, we'll be taking questions live from the forum and then live from you folks. Does anyone have any questions so far? Okay. We'll be taking our break, inshallah, at 6:30. We're running a little bit behind, but we should be good. I've been told we have a coffee cart available when?
Right now. Oh, sorry.
Oh, we'll see when it's available. Surprise. And
The break is for those who can't they still need some break. So that's technically also. And then we'll also have major marks and regatherers.
the election committee is gonna sit there, so don't think it's too scandalous that the women are on the men's side for some reason. It's just because we're elections committee. Yeah,
What's the rule about bringing devices for candidates onto the stage?
you can bring devices. It's not recommended so that you don't read like directly from. But you can bring devices. You can't bring papers, whatever you want. But with your own discretion. And then just like a reminder, inshallah, when the candidates are up, if you want to chit chat, it's very tempting. I know the door's that way. So just like chat in the hallways, inshallah, and then come back when you're ready, just so that doesn't take away from the candidates. Okay, we're going to start first thing, inshallah, with VP of Social Advancement. So if you're ready for that, please. You are not yours.
Yes.
Oh, I'm not.
On the stage. BP social advancement.
I think that well, I was looking for my
2 minutes.
All right, assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everyone. I don't think I need introductions because we all have the same people for our events all over again. But anyway, I'm glad we all made it. As you can tell, I'm running for the VP Social Advancements. And if you don't know me, you know I mean, everyone knows me, but you know, I'm very passionate about Palestine and social awareness. And alhamdulillah, for the last 6 years, I've been really out there in my community, involved in a lot of mental health advocacy and community medicine advocacy. And that's something I pride myself on a lot, especially now. When we have people that are out there that don't have access to care. And that's something I want to work on a lot. And I think I can bring that experience to social advancement in a sense where I'm able to bring a more holistic value and make sure that we give access not only to mental health resources, but as well as giving an opportunity to those who need it the most. And that's just something I really pride myself on, and making sure that everyone is able to speak their voices in a way that shouldn't be able to reprimand them. So we should all be more available and more willing to put ourselves out there. And that just, I'll speak on this later, inshallah, but so a lot of the stuff refers back to TSSP and just making sure that we all know that is in the manner to work on our community and work on the stuff that we value the most.
We're gonna proceed with the questions first. Or questions?
Yes.
Opening stand, okay. You guys stand, you can stand over here, yeah. It's my parking. That's fine.
We'll like this for 10 seconds.
Okay, sounds good. Alright, assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Sumaya. I am an associate with BCA team. This year, I think the social advancement has done immense work in highlighting a lot of issues that are going on globally, but also locally. As part of the community education and action team, I've seen a lot of potential, and I think that we can create an even larger local impact when it comes to partnering with local communities and partnerships. So as VP Social Advancement, I think I would like to bring in sustainable evidence-based strategies that actually address social justice issues and then tackle them head on. As a graduate student in educational leadership and policy, I do have research skills in specifically community work in education in social justice that helps us to teach us how to mobilize properly. When we're talking about mobilization, that refers to how we get people from different expertise, people from different communities to come in and work together to solve social justice issues. And I think this is really important because we're not the only ones who are involved in social advocacy. There are so many people who can benefit us and help us to benefit others as well. So that being said, I think I would love to create long-lasting partnerships with Massaja, different campuses across Toronto, different community groups, student clubs on campus, to essentially improve learning conditions for Muslims, not only at U of T, but all across campuses. And so another thing that I think is really important is to educate ourselves on how to develop skills to advocate for others. So this includes workshops, tabling, using previous campaigns to teach people about what is going on and providing us the proper skills and training to understand how we can help, but also how others can help together. So okay.
You can keep the mic and then we'll ask questions then.
Like here?
Yeah, you can sit down.
We'll just alternate between you guys.
Yeah. You can ask the first, you can answer the first question, Smith. So the question is, what new ideas would you like to bring to your role? How would you ensure that the idea sustains?
Wonderful question. So I think one idea that I would really like to see happen is advocacy training on campus. So this includes training for students to understand how they can develop advocacy skills and then apply that in any situation that they're in. So this includes using the partnerships that we currently have, such as NCCM, TCMB. There are different organizations like Justice for All who are willing to bring in professionals and teach students how they can advocate not only for initiatives on their campus, but outside of their campus as well. So we can do things like workshops, tabling, consistent training that essentially provides students with essential skills to advocate. And this is essentially so that we as an MSA are not the only ones who are advocating, but providing students the abilities to do so as well.
So what new ideas would you like to bring to your role and how would you ensure that the idea sustains?
All right, cool. Just a quick brief. Who showed up to the town hall yesterday? And 1, 2, 2 out of maybe 20. Okay, so alhamdulillah, something I want to work on is making sure that those numbers increase. And one thing that I personally think that we often struggle with is a first step. We don't know where to start and we don't know how to start. So one thing that I want to make sure is that we're able to bring in people that are more knowledgeable on this. So you have your Omar al-Shawas, your Hamid Yassins, bring them in and other panelists. So maybe people from the Sudanese Union, the Palestinian Students Association. And these are obviously people that are very involved in the field. And these are people that can speak towards creating that first step. Because one of my main goals is to make sure that we're all able to support that Ummah all over the world. So that's just something I think that once we build off of that, we can create a foundation, and we can therefore create as much impact as possible, inshallah.
You can keep in mind. Given how the Ummah is facing many issues, how will you decide what to prioritize or address?
For sure. So obviously we have our big conflicts all over the world. But also, there's a lot that are addressed locally, right? So Sophia, I was able to bring the winter supplies charity and fundraiser. And that's just something I think we need to look more into as well, making sure we not only fulfill the needs of our ummah, but also fulfill the needs of our local community. So this could be non-Muslims, making sure we're working with people of different faiths, different sects in order to create as much social impact as possible. And that's something I think we need to be more open-minded to as well. So working with clubs not only at UofT, but outside of UofT. So we have TMU right across the street. So I think it'll take a lot of planning, but inshallah, I think it's very doable. And I think it's something that we can all look forward to, not even like within us, but also within the other roles as well. There's a lot of potential to work with other MSAs and other clubs.
Yeah, given how the Ummah is facing many issues, how will you decide what to prioritize?
This is a great question, because it's inevitable that we will experience a lot of different social justice issues. I think when events are broadcasted on the media, they have a particularly stronger effect on students. And it can require them to seek more mental health support, talk about things in the open. So I think discussing things that are aware and apparent right now is really important. But I also do agree that sometimes there are campaigns and initiatives that don't receive the spotlight that they deserve, especially local campaigns and initiatives. I think speaking to students and engaging with them directly is a way to understand what we need to prioritize, what struggles they're facing internally, what is impacting them and their mental health, as well as perhaps their hometowns or their environments, and then use the student body to understand what we need to advocate for.
And then I'll take a question from the forum responses. So what do you think social advancement actually means? What does it mean to you?
Great question. I think social advancement to me means recognizing what is happening and essentially advancing the way that we respond to social justice issues. And the primary step, I believe, for social advancement is mobilization. So this includes getting together people from different expertise, people from different identities, people from different perspectives, and collectivizing for a greater cause. And I think if we do that, then we can use people's different resources, different skills to raise awareness about social issues, and then come to solutions and strategies that can actually advance structural change. And so I think that's the goal for social advancement, is to create social reform and change, but the processes and the steps in between are just as important.
So what do you think social advancement actually means? What is it?
Sure. So I think personally, I took this on a more personal level. I believe that social advancement is a very all-encompassing role. So looking at our constitution, we have our objectives, and I think one of the biggest objectives we can complete is creating that sense of community, and within that community, creating a sense of responsibility. So as I pointed out earlier, we didn't have great attendance for the TSSB town hall. And one thing that could boost that potentially is by creating that sense of responsibility, by creating that urgency, by, as Sumaya said, by mobilizing more people, one-on-one conversations. It's stuff like, it's the small stuff that eventually leads to big change, I think. And I think that social advancement is a means of creating that big change by putting yourself out there to create those micro conversations and create those microcosms that eventually lead to what we want to do and fulfill our goals in the plan.
All right, and then last question. So a key aspect of social advancement is having to think on your feet as issues arise. How would you ensure that you and your directors have capacity to tackle said issues alongside all of your other responsibilities?
For sure. So, I mean, we all know Slack. Sorry, what's we all know Slack, and I know I've used GIFs on that. You can get to me on that later, but Slack obviously it enforces that level of communication. But beyond that, I think it's important to have that sense of familiarity with your directors and as well as what they do, and not only your directors, but their committee members as well. So if you have a more personal level of communication with the committee members, you're also able to work more closely with the general members of the MSA as well. I think we can all agree on that. And in general, I think the holistic communication is very important, but also being able to yourself out there. And a lot of social advancement is being willing to advocate for the stuff that people aren't advocating for. And in general, that courage is what gets stuff done.
The aspect of social advancement is having to think on your feet as issues arise. How would you ensure that you and your directors have capacity to tackle said issues alongside all of your other responsibilities?
Yeah, great question. I think it's really important to understand first and foremost that your committee members and your directors are students as well. And so a lot of the times, sometimes they won't have the capacity to give 100%. And that's why it's important to rely on each other, but also rely on other means and other resources. So having meetings, weekly meetings, check-ins to see how everyone is doing, what people can take on, I think is really important. And then after that, after gauging what your student body and your committee members and directors can do, reaching out to external partnerships. So I keep saying like mobilization because it's true that we don't necessarily always have to just rely on ourselves. There are a lot of people who are willing to help. We have the chaplaincy, we have different scholars, we have partnerships like NCCM, we have TCMV, who are willing to bring in experts and teach us how to do things, and to essentially collectivize and to create change. So I think it's important to, first of all, check in with your committee members and your directors, but also extend those partnerships and support to people outside the campus.
So actually, this is the last question. In situations where there are differing opinions within the community on social issues, how would you navigate those differences while still moving initiatives forward?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, in situations where there are differing opinions within the community on social issues, how would you navigate those differences while still moving initiatives forward?
Okay, this is a great question too, because it will happen. We're all diverse individuals. We have different opinions. I think as an MSA, it's really important to set certain boundaries and certain guidelines to understand what is acceptable and what is not. And secondly, opinions and conflicts will arise. And so when they do arise, it's important to understand that people are coming from different perspectives. They do have different opinions. People have different worldviews. And not to invalidate them, but allow them to come into a space welcomed. But at the same time, and also I think it's important to engage them in dialogue, in appropriate dialogue, professional dialogue, to understand where they're coming from, and to understand how we can help them in that sense, but also making sure that anything that does happen in advocacy or in on-campus spaces does happen in terms of our guidelines and our boundaries.
So in situations where there are differing opinions within the community on social issues, how would you navigate those differences while still moving initiatives?
Okay, so I know I mentioned interfaith and intersect relations earlier, and I know there's a lot of controversy with that, especially, with what we may think of the other sects and other religions as well. But I think it's important to be able to navigate through that, because at the end of the day, we're all living in one community. Once we establish that, we can't grow without the use of an analogy that I would give is that a tree cannot grow in an ecosystem without the use of other trees and other species, right? You have your fungi, which help the tree grow. Sorry, Bio 120 PTSD. And then you have the other species which help pollinate the tree. So to keep that in mind, I think is very important, because you're working with other people to help a just cause, and you're working under the umbrella of that just cause. So being able to understand the intricacies of that relationship is really important, I think. And just being more open-minded to working with people that may have different views, as Samaya mentioned, is very important to making sure that we're able to get the stuff we want done.
All right, thank you to both of you. We'll move on to the next motion.
Secretary is up next.
Please start your phone.
No, you can pick for one. You can't. And. So. Especially something when that's.
Sorry, I'll let go. You guys are doing well. Thanks for showing up. I'm not gonna lie, I thought we'd have more people, but it is what it is. Anyways, yeah, as you can see, I'm running for secretary. You might know me from accounts 2 years ago or student life this year, alhamdulillah. I've had a great time in the MSA and I'm going into my 4th year, so inshallah, I can end it well. Yeah, main thing I would say I'm focused on secretary this year is to let the Muslims shine on campus. So in the beginning of the year, actually, or in the beginning of the fall or so, the execs had a meeting with Professor, I forgot his name. Sorry, remember?
Was there no money?
Yeah, no man, exactly. And then, he made a point saying that the Muslims on campus are insecure in a sense. And I kind of felt that because we're such a powerful group with so much ability to do things, and yet we kind of shy away. And unfortunately, that's because, different stigmas and certain aspects of society. But that is, everything can be changed. So realistically, as secretary, on top of the administrative roles that, have to be done, I think Zoe was a great blueprint at doing the administrative roles and doing other things on top. He's really interested in history, so if he focuses on that, I have to lie. I can't lie. I'm not interested in history, so I won't be focusing on that. But he did great otherwise. So that's exactly what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna try to have the Muslims shine on campus, so different events for research perhaps, or different forums for having people come and learn about potential avenues for success on campus. So different grants, how to do research, how to find research. And I'm a life science student, so obviously that's what I'm used to, but I'm gonna be leveraging the whole MSA council for that, inshallah. So yeah, that's my goal, inshallah.
Assalamualaikum. We're just gonna go ahead and ask you some questions. I'll start off with a simpler question. So you mentioned some of the things that you want to bring to the MSA, including certain events. Are there any specific skills that you think that you can bring to the table, and how do you think that they will help you in your position?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I did just spend the entire year doing student life. So in terms of the events that I want to run on campus for the things I just mentioned, student life skills will translate pretty well, like knowing timings of events and how to work with the team and everything. Yeah, in terms of administrative roles, I've had some other clubs, and just my work out of school have been involved in administration, such as working in a clinic. So tracking everyone's names and dates and organizing like that. So.
All right, perfect.
So a lot of the secretary's role is really making sure the internal MSA is cohesive, functioning, and organized. And that often is not showcased as much in the MSA. So my question to you is, looking at the past year, the organizational efficacy of the MSA, what are some key points you want to focus on, whether it be the directors, execs, and how are you going to ensure the MSA is internally functioning smoothly?
Yeah, for sure. I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't the best at this year, working with the folder and everything. But going to secretary, I'm for sure focusing on that. So there are definitely existing avenues that, the MSA has been running for so long. And I think there's a reason why it's been running for so long. It's because there are these organization tools that we can go back so many years ago and have event proposals and things like that. It's just a matter of whether or not we're focusing on them or not. Like I said, I wasn't the best at doing that this year. However, going into secretary, I will be, enforcing these and making sure that future years have good organization and record of what we did this year, inshallah.
Okay, perfect. I'm gonna take one of the questions from the form. And so one of the questions on the form is, how will you intend on creating a balance between ensuring proper boundaries and keeping interactions permissible for the MSA?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're all students, so I feel like there's no correct answer to this per se, because no one is really just a master at, Islam and also balancing everything. So it's definitely a learning experience. This year many things have happened and we can learn off of that. But ultimately, Slack is where I believe all communication should happen. For internal MSA matters, external MSA matters with collaborations and things like that. Once that can be done. But I think we should treat Slack almost as if it's the workspace, a physical workspace of the MSA. So, keeping things professional, although we are a student group, and also importantly, monitoring boundaries, especially time. So I should be getting a message pretty late, and I should be messaging people pretty late, something like that. So treating Slack mostly like a physical workspace, if that makes sense.
Okay, I'm gonna ask one of my questions now. And the question is, one of your responsibilities as a secretary is to ensure that you hire a strong admin director to support you in your work. What are some characteristics you would look for in hiring an admin director that would let you know that they're the right candidate?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I have to say, Hans did a great job this year under the guidance of Zoe. But how I see admin, it's, obviously there's administrative roles, but it's really the glue or what brings the MSA cohesively, because it's really rare for, well, obviously attendance is never perfect at council meetings, but that is mostly where everyone sees each other, and that's where community is built, right? So on top of the administrative roles, I'd like to see someone that's very open, very extroverted, interested in talking to people, interested in learning. I mean, just general traits of anyone that wants to come to the MSA, I suppose. Yeah.
Great, and then does anybody have any questions? No?
Yes,
Like, what are ways that you would try to build community between members? Like, how do you think you can build those relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we already have an existing community because, undergrads are here for 4 or 5 years, maybe more. And we always get graduate students. And unfortunately, first years coming in, seconds are coming in, when they see this community, it's often hard for them to join in because it kind of feels like this is a clique. And like, who am I to join the clique, right? So I would start early, right? So summer and then the fall, where it's kind of, joining new cliques is kind of in the air, right? It's kind of weird to join the MSA or join a new group of people closing the semester, closing the year. It's, you join and then you don't really talk to people. So starting early, focusing on that and then creating connections that way. It's fine.
The office has always been a mess relatively. There have been multiple attempts to create some systems so people can directors connect. What solution, would you actually provide some improvements to that situation or like some solutions? And what would you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's inevitable that this office gets busy, right? We're all students, and this is in the corner of campus, and it's used very rarely for events. And also, we're sharing space with other clubs, and on top of that, it's quite unfortunate that it's such a small space. Actually, I see other clubs, they literally get like an apartment in there, and they're all just chilling. Otherwise, I think getting messy is inevitable, and I think that's okay. But it's more about creating systems to continuously refresh that. I don't see a world where it doesn't get messy, but I do see a world where we have more directors coming in and being active in cleaning things up. So yeah.
Okay, gonna go back to doing the election questions. So the first question is, so how are you planning on adjusting between your current role of being supervised, going secretary and elected?
I mean, nothing too special, I suppose. Everyone is supposed to be elected, and if everyone else is to be elected, for those who are elected, we have a transition meeting, and then we have organized steps for execs coming in. I don't think the fact that I was student life necessarily means that my transition will be any different. But I will have skills as an exec coming in. Yeah.
All right, and the maybe second last question, let's say. How would you improve council meetings? Do you think that they're okay as they are, and what do you see as the purpose of the council meetings?
Yeah, I mean, council meetings is where important announcements are made, but I think most importantly, council meetings are vital at the beginning of the semester or in the beginning of the term rather than the end. Because like I said, that's where everyone sees each other face to face. Most communication happens over Slack. And this monthly council meeting is where connections are made. But otherwise, I think Zoe and Hansa did a great job this year, right? I met so many new people met so many people, and I mentioned that I've been in the MSA for 2 years now. In the first year, it felt very remote. like individuals didn't really know each other, and then, you know, directors did their own thing, and then et cetera, et cetera. But it's great seeing a lot of connections being made this semester. There's so many collaborations between groups. Like my best directors worked with the OSP, you know, and I feel like that couldn't have happened without the two organizing such great council meetings. So yeah.
Okay, one final question. And so as secretary, your role is very diverse. There's a lot of work that needs to be done all the time. And it can sort of be an ongoing role where sometimes it feels like you don't have a break. What are some ways that you plan to remain proactive and proficient in ensuring that all administrative tasks are completed on time or ahead of schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to this, I suppose, but the MSA has been around for so long, and there's a reason that is, and because of the structure that has been organized. And it's about personally taking that to like heart and making sure it's important. So I think all of the structure is there, the foundation is there on how to do that. It's just simply about taking the initiative to do so. So, you know, I'll be doing my best, inshallah. It's my fourth year, which will be easier than my third year, to spend more time on something like that, and then stay steady in, you know, my work in MSA.
Okay, all right, that's all we have for you today.
Okay, next is VP Student Life Development.
Assalamualaikum everyone.
Hi.
I hope you're all doing well. My name is Nashwa. I'm currently a third year undergrad student and I'm running for VP Student Life. This last year, I've been serving as a special events director on the VP Student Life. And through this role, I have helped plan the events such as Prosh and then multicultural iftar and also welcome dinner. And I've seen many new faces in that event. And for all of them, that was the first time they're coming to the MSA. And yeah, it was, for me, it was really stuck to me. And also it really feel like, sorry. Yeah, that was a big part why I'm running for VP Student Life. And apart from that, I also see leadership as an amana and also want to contribute in a way that that really aligns with my strength and experience. To me, Student Life is also not about organizing social events, it's also how people first get connected to the MSA. And not everyone is ready to attend religious events right away, and therefore having these more casual events can really help them to enter to the MSA. My goal is also to make Student Life a space where Muslim students can find their people, their community, where they feel comfortable at, and also where they feel belong to. And additionally, one idea is that I keep coming back to is how we define the very first step, because currently the big event that we have in the first term is Prosh. And for me, I feel like the term itself sounds like it's only intentionally for first year. And then I want to redefine that Prosh term into another term that feels more welcoming to all people, not only for our students. Thank you so much.
So if you want to say this, the first question that we have is, so with VP Student Life, you're doing a lot of events and you have to do things, you have to work with your directors to plan those events ahead of time. Suppose you're managing a team member who wasn't fulfilling their responsibilities. How would you ensure that the work is being distributed? How would you address that team member? And how do you just make sure that the work is being completed equally in time?
Thank you for the question. So first thing that I would like to do is understanding why that team member have a difficulty in completing their problem. So I will ask like, is it like because of personal things or because of like workload or something? And then I will offer practical help, obviously, to, for example, redistributing the task, and then also redistributing the task, and yeah, do other things like help, like every like small or even bigger help, such as helping them making the form or something like that. I think that also really helped. And I also want to make sure that my directors or my members, that it's okay to, not be okay sometimes, and also to make sure that taking care of themselves is also equally important as doing their job.
So you mentioned your idea for Frost. If you want to elaborate on that or give other new ideas for events that you have, what are event ideas that you want to push for, and how do you think it's best to achieve it?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, because the first big event was Frost, and I want to brand that to something that more welcoming to everyone. So the thing is, I want to rebrand Frost, not just renaming it, but also rebrand the intention behind it. So in terms of structure, it will be pretty much similar with Frost. So it's like social events that is welcoming to all people. But the key difference is how we design and position it. And so we don't see it as orientation for first year, but it's also a space where it feels welcoming for everyone, especially for people who haven't come to an MSA event before. And then in terms of increasing engagement, one thing that come up in my mind is to bring food, not necessarily provide free food or not providing free food or free snacks, but one idea I have is to have like a small food bazaar, and we invite like small or local community, for example, like similar to one that we have in Juma, and also restaurants that we connected during Ramadan. So therefore, we're not only engaging people to come into the MSA, but we also can help small business run their business.
I'm done. I have more questions, but before I proceed, does anyone else from the audience have any questions?
I'm just curious, like, do you have any specific ideas you would do for sisters events or brothers events? Like anything you think sisters might be interested in, or brothers?
Yeah, to keep for the question. There's one idea in mind. So I want to make something called like MSA Try series. So this is a recurring event, and the objective for this event is not only to bring people to the MSA, but also to keep them coming back, because it's a try series, right? So the idea is that to have people try new different things every single event. So for example, we can have something like MSA tries sports. So we can have one day volleyball, basketball, and etc. etc. And because we don't require people to have like prior experience or knowledge about it, so we have like low barriers to entry. So therefore, people can come back more in the future. Additionally, we also can get feedback from the participants, and I think that's very important, because we want to hear what they want for the social events, and after that apply what their suggestions for the events.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
I mean, we're trying to get like an inter-MSA thing going earlier in the year, but unfortunately we got like pretty behind and packed up in terms of scheduling. But if you say you wanted to run like an inter-MSA tournament, how would you proceed with that, and how do you think, or even not even like a tournament per se, an inter-MSA event, how would you proceed with that per se?
Sorry, to clarify, so your question was how can I make the inter-MSA event?
Yeah, like, or how would you proceed with that, if is it in your interest, or?
So can you explain more, like what is inter-MSA event?
So working with other MSAs per se to create like another event. So if like we're trying to get an inter-MSA soccer tournament going per se.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, we can definitely do that. And I think that's also one key idea that we have in mind. And we also actually did it like this past years. For example, for special events, we did collaborate with OSP and then academic affairs, and also internal teams during Frosh. And I think that's also one key idea that we have, because we want to bring people to the MSAs, and by doing collaboration, we can also have other people get like different perspective in like what other parts of MSA is doing. Not only social, but they also have exposure to like the academic academic affairs team, and then internals team, etc., etc. And also in terms of how to keep things going, I think we can always have like some small light collaborations. So it's not necessarily have to be like a big collaborations, but we can have like light collaborations and incorporate like small things. For example, we can work with internal team, and then we can invite Ustada or chefs to come to our social events, not necessarily to give like a formal talk, but for them to just sit in there, and therefore people can have exposure at their own level of comfortability.
Okay, so a question that we got from before is, what are some ways that you think the MSA can help conference specifically integrate into the team?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I think student life is a great way to bring people into the MSA, and I think lots of our events can make people come to the MSA early on. For example, we can do welcome dinner, and then fresh events too. So people people can come early on in the MSA.
I think we're going to one last question, Sean. As VP of Student Life, obviously you're responsible for engaging both the brothers and the sisters. How do you find making sure that you're able to address the needs of both? And then as a part two, how do you plan on engaging the community, both sides, while maintaining Islamic boundaries?
Thank you for the question. So as we know, under VP Student Life, we have like 3 directorships: sister events, brothers events, and special events. And therefore, to increase engagement between brother and sister, of course, we have to ask like feedback separately, like what the brothers want and what the sister want, because usually they have a completely different interest. And on top of that, for a special events team, special events itself, because it mainly work for bigger events that involving both sister and brother. So to make sure that we maintain the boundaries is always make sure in the planning that we have a floor plan that really have like clear boundaries between sister and brother. So for example, during welcome dinner this year, we have a separate side for brother and sister, and I think that really helps, especially in the sister side, because we feel like we have our space. And so I think it's really important in the planning side, so that we have planned like how to distribute within brother and sister side.
Okay. From us, anyone else?
Something will argue that the books and dinners are a waste of money. For the MSA, are a waste of money. And what's your opinion of that? And if you're actually pro welcome and pro dinners, what's your argument?
Sorry, is it farewell dinner or welcome dinner?
Both.
I think it depends on how that people see it, because for me, I think welcome dinner is a way to get more connections in the MSA, especially because this event is not only for undergrad students, but it's also open for anyone, alumni, and then for other people from outside the MSA too, and also from outside UofT. So I think it depends on how people see it. But in terms of tickets, we've been trying to be more affordable. For example, this year we've tried to be very affordable, I think, in terms of the price. Especially we have a really nice venue, which is Hartwell Street Hall, and with the price, I think it was very affordable. And I think it depends on how the people see it.
Okay, so we're going to be breaking now a little bit earlier than planned to come to that. So for sisters, whoever didn't have a chance to pray asad, we'll go to the prayer room right now. And then we'll be back by 6:40, inshallah.
Yeah.
You want to speak here?
Also,
Okay. Yeah.
you get the door.
You can close it.
All right, Assalamu alaikum guys. I don't know if I actually need this. My name is Nabil, you guys don't know me.
Well, I waiting for the report,
Sorry, oh.
but like, dramatic effects, great.
I'll restart. My name is Nabil. I'm running to be your VP external for next year, inshallah. So I've been driven to run for this role because alhamdulillah this year I've been serving as outreach director. I've been able to work with many outstanding organizations and individuals. That's driven me to really want to reinforce the connections that our team has made with external portfolio and cultivate new connections with new organizations that are in the works right now. So as for me personally, I work with MSA with outreach. Our main work has been focused on organizing Islam Awareness Week. So we focus upon introducing Dawah volunteers to take an approach to Dawah training in a more structured manner through module-based Dawah training, something that we'd like to continue next year, inshallah. And we had different Dawah teams focus on different Islamic topics, actually inspired by my co-director, Fleischer from UofTMSA. And additionally, last year I served as corporate relations director under finance. So my role consisted of working with external organizations, UofTMSA to procure sponsorships, funding to really make sure that the really amazing events that go on at our MSA are able to happen. So yeah, putting, I guess, my work from last year, this year together, it's really allowed me to see that reinforcing the professional partnerships that I've made with external organizations. That's something I'd like to continue moving forward and really grow upon the work that I'm doing right now. Jazakallah.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum. My name is Khansa Munir. I'm a second year undergraduate student and I'm running to be your VP external. So the VP external is someone that really emphasizes the importance of making connections. So that's both maintaining old ones and working towards building new ones. So joining the MSA this past year as admin director, I've been overwhelmed with such an ambitious and supportive and faithful community. From hosting frequent monthly council meetings with guest speakers such as Professor Arafat Razak, Sister Rumia Awesi from the Muslim Chaplaincy, so holding meaningful Dawah conversations with students across Sydney Smith and Bayhen, holding NMC Islamic history events with NMC professors, as well as just distributing Jatu bowls during Ramadan iftars. The UofT has really given me an amazing and supportive community and given me chances to not only grow in faith, but also in experiences. So as your future Vice President External, inshallah, I want to nurture the sense of home away from home for UofT Muslims by creating a community that's well connected within campus and throughout the wider UofT community, throughout the wider Toronto community through three main goals. So first, I need to strengthen our relationship with on-campus networks by hosting more frequent, smaller events with academic clubs like URSA, or with academic departments like NMC, history, maybe engineering, human bio. To strengthen our off-campus MSA presence and to create community events with masjids across Toronto and the GTA. So our students have an Islamic support system outside campus walls. So sorry, I'm student. So building on to the phenomenal success of Islamic Awareness Week, I'll place a greater emphasis on interfaith dialogue, Da'i training certification, and we work care and support throughout the year. Finally, I aim to create opportunities for graduate students, alumni, and undergrads by fostering professional relationships using MSA Tri-Campus networking events. I understand the external role is an amana, but inshallah, I will uphold it with humility and sincerity in a way that is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallah khair.
So first question, how do you plan on fostering good relationships with your directors and then also your executive team? It's just a general question.
Okay, fostering good relationship with my directors. I think I learned that a lot from my exec. So number one would be having clear communication. So having frequent directorship meetings and constantly checking in on them and making sure they're aware of the goals that need to be completed and next steps or anything that they're struggling with. And having this clear communication with directors and with other execs. That would include also being transparent about the projects that I'm working on, so that if there's like future collaborations that we want to do, sorry, not collaborations, but if you want to work together on certain events or certain projects, that's apparent because I'm keeping my project transparent with them. And supporting them in their projects and using my connections and my relationships that I formed to help them with their events and their initiatives, inshallah.
I'll ask everyone if you want me to repeat the question, then I'll repeat it just to avoid redundancy. So if you remember, then
repeat it.
So how do you plan on fostering good relationships with directors and the executive teams?
All right. I'll speak from my personal experience here. Especially with the portfolios under external, the directors themselves take upon a lot of work. So one thing that I would encourage and would strive to implement, inshallah, is really starting the work from the ground in the summer, not only for the directors, but also organizing committee teams and giving them more agency from before the school year even begins. A lot of the works that the academic affairs, alumni, outreach, especially with planning IW, two directors taking on leading a team of over 100 individuals working with external organizations. It can be quite difficult to take upon even just beginning in September. So I guess setting the ground, setting expectations from the summer, giving committee teams more agency from the summer to really aid the directors. I guess cultivate and create that team that's like, it doesn't feel like you're working, it feels like you're hanging out with people beginning in the summer. That's something I really strive to implement. And I aspire that vision can make it easier to communicate within your team moving into the school year. So yeah, that's something I'd want to do.
So you mentioned IW, so my next question was regarding that. So what are your plans to improve IW? How to make it more interactive and engaging?
Right. So alhamdulillah, this year IW was amazing. A lot of things were quite difficult to plan in terms of especially working with UofT admin, room bookings, especially the entire week got pushed back a few times. We had a lot of issues with room bookings or getting spaces in general. So I guess really setting that, reaching out to external organizations and our admin, presenting the face of the MSA as being like professional, and what I mean by that, for example, currently our team is working on an application to receive EDI funding from the faculty. So if we're able to receive funding or have, those badges under our belt when we're reaching out to admin or other organizations, it gives us more legitimacy to, I guess, receive spaces, work with other organizations, and I guess build on the organizations that we've worked with this year. So I guess again, adding on to my first answer, setting that ground up during the summer, inshallah. I guess setting up with the directors that, okay, these are the organizations we want to reach out to. We want to get these avenues of funding. I guess that will set precedents, inshallah.
All right, so the question was, how will I improve IW district? So, being an IW volunteer, a DAO volunteer and participating in DAO for the first time this year, it was alhamdulillah, it was amazing, and much of that credit goes to Nabil and Wajid and Nima. But I think there's three main things that I would work on. The first would be having at least one interfaith dialogue event. So that includes like collaborating with other religious clubs. For example, there's one called like Power to Change. And we actually gave dawah to a lot of their members as well. So the importance of this is that people receive dawah in so many different ways. So not everyone is receptive to if we have so many books, like how do you know which one is true? People are receptive to like establishing a relationship based on respect and understanding with them. And that's through not just like lecturing them, but holding conversations with them. And so when we hold these conversations with them and we're willing to listen to their perspectives and they're listening to our perspectives, and they're more willing to come to our events, to come to our spaces and learn about Islam. Because I think the way that sometimes we approach it is that they get defensive and so they build a wall in front of themselves and so they're not willing to hear anything we say. So having those interfaith dialogues, and then number two is consuming the Reaper Care and Support that was started this last month. So I want to continue this from the beginning of the year, having bi-weekly or monthly check-ins with regrets that we've had from previous IWs and this IW with the Muslim chaplaincy to ensure that we're not just bringing people into Islam and leaving them to fend for themselves.
How would you ensure that everyone involved in the events or programs feels comfortable and confident?
Everyone in the events feels comfortable and confident in like networking and academic events.
Any events, I guess it's just like fostering that sort of community. Would you need to do that?
In IW or
In general, in your position?
So in terms of academic events, I think number one is ensuring that our speakers and our connections that we're calling over feel comfortable. And the way to do that is being extremely transparent with them, making sure that this is exactly what we want from you guys. This is the experience and the resources and the advice that we want from you. And this is exactly how the event will play out. And so that way that they're fully aware of what they're getting into. And for making sure that before the event starts, that we have a clear goal in mind and a clear purpose, that this is exactly what we want to accomplish in this event. This is our purpose, and we're not going to hinder away from that. For example, if our goal is to have a networking event, and we see that a lot of like sisters are uncomfortable with having like a really intermixed networking events, then reassessing our goal that, okay, our goal is just to foster connections and professional relationships. If you can do that with having a separate side for brothers and sisters, and we can do that. If not, then we can assess other ways, but just to listen to the wider community, to what they want, and keeping our goals in mind, and obviously being transparent with our connections and our speakers.
Would you ensure that everyone feels programs?
Okay. In terms of creating more comfort, I'll start with for IW volunteers. especially with what we implemented this year with more structured Dawa training, it seemed like from feedback we received, it seemed a tad intimidating to some volunteers to, really jump into, learning about all these rules, how to interact with different types of personalities. It was a bit difficult to begin with. So one thing that we strive to implement, Shola as VP, I guess with what we're doing right now, we have weekly Dao sessions, and I guess the goal with that right now is we want to create a culture within the MSA where we're regularly giving Dao and having that.
So the student life at University of Toronto is comprised of the clubs and organizations that are within it. So one thing that I really wanted to emphasize, if I inshallah become vice president external, is to have more collaborations with organizations that we haven't collabed with before. So for example, not just like Muslims in academia, not just like Islamic Relief, but for example, if we collaborate with more academic organizations like URSA, for example, Undergrad Research Student Association, I think that's really tapping into resources and opportunities that we haven't checked off yet. Things like reaching out to different departments and collaborating with like academic departments like NMC, history, maybe engineering or human bio, and having sort of connections with them for events. That's a really strong way to maintain our presence on campus, so that for any future, like for some social advancement, if a situation like that sort of comes, that we have a voice and we have a sort of like, we have influence in our community.
So the MSA has a long-standing relationship with see how you navigating and building this delicate relationship.
I'll add into a great idea Hansa brought up about collaborating with URSA. So this is an idea specifically for academic affairs. So alhamdulillah, this year we had a lot of great panel talks. One thing I'd like for the external portfolio to really see is events which are not weight heavy on the speaker side, but more so allows for the broader Muslim community at UofT to present their work. And what I mean by this specifically is having, for example, research symposiums or small conferences where the Muslim population at UofT is able to present their research or their professional work, network with each other. It really brings together a lot of people because sometimes, we attend events to hear things, but when we're able to present our own work, it has more meaning and more, cooler connections, I guess. And yeah, so that's something I'd like to see. In terms of maintaining relationships with our university, that is a really multi-step effort, which again needs to begin well before the school year. Especially we need to maintain good relationships with the university for booking spaces or making sure we're receiving amenities. So again, reaching out to external organizations to partner and receive funding, giving us more legitimacy. That's something we'd like to see, inshallah.
Right, anything else to talk about here? Sub is VP internal.
Like what you were saying about yeah, that was really the thing, like
You want to Austin? No, I got you tiger. So like, one of the candidates, Wase, is not here, so the policy is we're just gonna read a statement. But unfortunately, he won't be here to answer the questions. So let's begin. Bismillah. Wase Farouk is running for the position of VP Internal for the University of Toronto MSA. He was previously served as Religious Education Director with the UofTMSA and as the Dawah Director at NSA UTSC. Through these roles, he had the opportunity to organize programs, coordinate with exec teams, and contribute to initiatives aimed at strengthening the spiritual and educational environment for Muslim students on campus. These experiences helped him to understand the importance of strong internal structure within student organizations. When communication, planning, and accountability are clear within a team, it became much easier for him to execute meaningful programs and serve the community effectively. If entrusted with the role of VP Internal, he hopes to focus on improving internal coordination between departments, strengthening executive support systems, and helping ensure that initiatives are organized efficiently and sustainably throughout the year. He hopes to contribute to fostering a collaborative environment where team members feel supported in carrying out their responsibilities and developing their leadership. The MSA plays an important role in supporting Muslim students spiritually, socially, and academically, and he would be grateful for the opportunity to contribute to that mission through this role.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Axel. I'm running for VP Internal position for the next year. So my main motivation for running is to serve the Muslim community at UofT in a larger capacity than I'm currently doing. And I've been a part of this community for a long time now because I did my undergrad here and now I'm doing my master's. My most relevant experience was this year through Religious Education Directorship. And this year I helped organize a lot of events and initiatives, both related to this role and also outside of it, which includes a halaqah with a very famous international speaker, the weekly tazkiyah classes with the Sheikh Kabil, the Shama'il classes with Imam Ahmed, the MSA Quran Kids program, a lot of events during Ramadan, like the Quran competition and weekly tafsir halaqahs, and many more outside that as well. And I helped organize the Zakat al-Fitr collection in collaboration with TIC and also the Islamic monthly post on social media. So through all this, alhamdulillah, with the help of Ali Saad and the rest of the internal team, we have a very good foundation in terms of religious education. So if I'm selected for VP Internal, I'll continue on using these connections that we've developed both with Shuyukh within our community, like Sheikh Hassan and Imam Ahmed, and the external ones like Sheikh Kabil. And that's the religious education side of things. For religious services, that was also like executed very well this year. So I'll just continue how it's been going for in terms of Jum'ahs that are released the tennis spaces, and then wherever like there's further room for improvement, I'll work on that as well. I've been like I live nearby, so I regularly attend the musallas and the Jum'ah that are on campus. So I think I have a pretty good idea of what's happening well and what could use some improvement. Is that what
So for Brother Salahuddin, it's not his fault that he doesn't have his candidate statement here. It's just because the elections committee thought his thing was invalid, but it's actually valid. So he does have something prepared, but it's just not on screen, so it's not his fault.
There's only one in my name. Oops. There we go. So when you guys vote for me, there's only one game in my name, okay? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very loud and clear. My name is Salahuddin Mohammed. I am a second year international student at UofT. I've been working with the
Religious Services Committee for the past year under the MSA. And it's pretty big. Honestly, VPNs are not, they did really well with regards to religious education and accommodation. But however, I also have some things that from my own personal experience I want to improve upon within like the MSA. For example, we can probably divide the VP internal work into two sides. Accommodation, religious accommodation, and religious education. For the accommodation side, right? I believe we can improve on space, accessibility, and cleanliness, unfortunately. And pertaining to our accessibility stuff, right? I, as a student, almost had to miss aid because of a seminar that my professor hosted. And I feel like no Muslim should be forced to miss this very important day once a year for our religion. And for that reason, I want to incorporate a formalized process within the MSA to deal with this conflicts of scheduling with regard to like university activities and religious activities. So no Muslim should be forced to miss iftar nor Eid. And I want to make like absences easier for us. Furthermore, with regards to space, I feel like we have a lot of spaces for prayers on U of T, but unfortunately, the maintenance is lacking. For example, bathing. Bathing. It could be improved upon. There's a lot of things that we can improve on as a MSA and as VP internal. I would improve on the accommodation and education with regard to space, cleanliness, and accessibility for Muslim students. Which is all I have.
Assalamualaikum everyone. As my name is Sumaya. This year, honestly, I think the VP internal team did an exemplary job with the religious education and providing religious services to students on campus. I myself attended a lot of these events and I really appreciate the effort and the dedication that went into them. There is one significant thing that I did recognize as I was going to different events and even facilitating my own events, and that is that the majority of people who come to MSA religious education events are council members. And a lot of the students who are not part of our committee or council members feel really intimidated. They don't feel like we are welcoming them or including them, and a lot of them don't even find the things that we're providing for them like safe for them or like interesting for them. And so I would like to run for VP internal because I'd like to address those gaps and also close those gaps to essentially provide a space in the MSA that is welcoming to Muslims who are already a part of our community and Muslims who feel intimidated to join or don't feel initially welcome to join our community. So I think for me, embodying this position means catering to the community that already exists here, but expanding our services to include those, again, who are not already involved. And so I think this requires us to start with the students themselves, to engage with them through dialogue, through previous consensus, through new research to understand why they're not joining, to understand what they need, and to understand what services we can provide for them so that they can be feel welcomed and be a part of our MSA events. Additionally, I think this requires us to simplify a lot of the education that we provide to make it accessible in the time, location, the topics as well. To make sure that everyone can learn, they can engage in dialogue, they can socialize, but essentially feel spiritually revived. And alhamdulillah, I've had the experience of giving da'wah, so I've spoken to Muslims and non-Muslims on campus. I have facilitated sisters events on campus that alhamdulillah have reached so many people who haven't been in the MSA, people who have been in the MSA. And so I think this has given me a good understanding on how to strategically bring in students from various identities, experiences, faith levels, and help them to essentially feel welcomed in the MSA.
Speak the microphone. First question, as VP internal, you rely on religious scholars for programming. How do you plan on engaging various scholars, either local or worldwide even, and resources in the community?
Great question. I think it's really important to use the resources that we have already utilized, in addition to expanding our resources. So I know the VP internal team has done a great job of bringing in Imam Ahmed, as I mentioned, like Sheikh Kano, we have Ustad Abir, Rumia, who have come previously. And so they already have rapport with students from this year and previous years. And so I think welcoming them in again would help students feel more connected. And then I think when we're thinking about bringing in new scholars, we can reach out to the organizations that we're already partnering with, perhaps asking the scholars that we're already engaged with if they know anyone, and really using the local scholars that we have and bringing them and to help people feel more connected to them.
So just to repeat, as VP internal, you rely on religious scholars for programming. How do you plan on engaging various scholars worldwide and resources in the
So Alhamdulillah, like was mentioned, we already have like a good basis for that from this year. So we have a few sheikhs from within the UofT community, like Sheikh Hussam, Imam Ahmed, and Sheikh Ammar. And other than that, we've developed like connections with some external sheikhs like TSC and their Sheikh Kamil. And so I think we can just build upon that and also reach out to other masjids to see the speakers that they have. That's more for the local side of things. For international, like the one that happened this year, it was mostly like random. So I think we can try like doing that for ourselves as well to reach out to international speakers rather than just like waiting for the opportunity to come.
How do you, as VP internal, you rely on religious scholars for programming? How do you plan on engaging various scholars, local or worldwide, and on resources?
Like I said, like everyone has said already, the MSA has already had great rapport with the local scholars within the GTA community, whether it be ISNA, TIC, Masjid Toronto. And I feel like we already have a very good basis for these individuals and these sheikhs, and they already have a good rapport with us. So I feel like we should go further and basically just have them continue. And with regards to international speakers, I do believe that they're an interesting and important part of the MSA experience. But then again, I feel like as an MSA, especially in Toronto, we should focus more on our local sheikhs and our local communities rather than expanding beyond. And while it's interesting to have them as guest speakers, and of course we will continue to have them as guest speakers, we should focus more on the local sheikhs and imams.
How would you assess whether your religious programming is effectively benefiting members, and how would you adjust it if it isn't?
I feel like this is the point that I wanted to address. Like our other candidate said, most of the religious education, the people who attend this religious education are already council members. And I feel like, of course, with regards to the methodology by which we assess how effective this religious education is, I do feel that we should put out a survey of like what is interesting, what do people want to learn, especially that there's a lot of reverts in our communities that may or may not be able to attend these things because it's such a high level, entry level of understanding all of these religious education. So I feel like we should expand our education to make it more digestible for people without a deep religious context, like a lot of people here, and to also not intimidate Muslims who differ in levels of iman.
Yeah, so that's a good question. Like Swahili mentioned, I think this is more of an MSA problem in general. Like the events, they're usually just attended by the same group of people. In addition to that, Everything we like discussed previously when planning events was basically to like different groups of Muslims on campus. Some of them are fully practicing maybe 5 times a day, some are less, etc. So I think we have to evaluate like how many of those groups we're successfully targeting, and I think a lot more work needs to be done to targeting like the group of Muslims who are less practicing, I guess. And I think one avenue that can be done is utilizing Jummah or Eid or those kind of opportunities, because that's where like you see all of these different groups of Muslims.
Just repeat the question, please.
So how would you assess whether your religious programming is effectively benefiting members, and how would you adjust it if it isn't?
Yeah, great question. I think firstly, it's really important to understand that tangible, measurable outcomes aren't always the best way to understand if people are benefiting. We know that even if one person benefits, then it's a form of sadaqah jariyah for us. And so I think instead of looking at numbers, it's really beneficial to look at who is actually coming. Are there diverse types of Muslims who are joining our events? Are there new faces? And over time, are those numbers growing? Are new people coming into the events? Are they coming to more events? So I think instead of focusing specifically on numbers to determine student engagement, it would be beneficial to see who is coming. And again, through like consensus, through research, we can see what we need to prioritize to improve that, and just to improve student engagement in general.
So last question, I'll ask you guys to keep it brief, fast, and I think you have a lot first, just so. What are some topics that you feel, or just one topic that you feel hasn't been highlighted or spotlighted in MSA's religious programming recently, and how would you include that?
I guess one topic that immediately comes to mind is fiqh. Like we had a fiqh like fasting before Ramadan that was really successful and had a lot of people, and we also got good feedback from that. But other than that, we haven't really covered like some of the foundations like fiqh of purification of salah and these kind of topics, which are like essential to the daily lives of all Muslims. So I think that's one thing that we can focus on, and that's also something that I think should be able to attract some of those group of Muslims that are like less practicing.
So the events.
I also agree with Hassan. Like we have not yet emphasized a lot of education pertaining fiqh for like low level fiqh, as in like what a new Muslim should know already. From my own background as a Muslim, unfortunately, I only recently found out that when you clean your feet, you're supposed to like have it under flowing water. And I never knew about that until like the brothers at UofT told me and brought me fatwas. So like these are the very basic but very important things that I feel like that every single Muslim must be educated about. And I feel like with the implementation of these more basic knowledge pertaining to Islam, we will be able to expand our horizons to include not just deeply devoted Muslims, but also readers and other Muslims of very different levels.
Repeat the question.
What's one topic that you feel hasn't been spotlighted or highlighted in that mistake, and the religious programming so far, and how would you address them?
Okay, thank you. I agree with the brothers, but even before fiqh, I think we need to focus on aqidah, because I think the majority of students who don't attend our events are struggling with their faith in some way or another. And I have graduated from an undergraduate degree, alhamdulillah, and I myself struggle to balance like being in a secular space, being surrounded by different ideologies that are telling us to push away our Islamic identity, and still holding on to our faith and our Islam. So I think touching upon topics that allow us to give da'wah to Muslims and to strengthen the faith that they already have. So things like, why do we believe in Islam? Or talking about the history of Islam, to have Muslims who don't understand about our history learn about it. And to really touch upon the basic foundations that formulate like the first pillar of Islam, which is the Shahada. And then inshallah, like eventually as the months go on, grow into providing programming about fiqh, providing more niche topics, maybe for Muslims who have a deeper level of understanding, but essentially creating that base level of understanding for Muslim students who aren't already involved with us and who aren't already strong and confident in their Muslim identity.
Thank you.
Alright, next we'll have VP Comms. So everyone, I'm going to begin by discussing a statement that for the people that are not here yet, or that won't be here today. So beginning with your inshallah, so let's get stuff back in first. Okay, so assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Noor and I'm a second year student majoring in molecular genetics and immunology. Being part of community has always been something that I deeply value, especially when it comes to contributing in ways that are meaningful and beneficial to others. In Islam, we are reminded of the importance of service, sincerity, and supporting one another, and these are values I try to carry with me in the space that I'm part of. As the current director of graphic design for the UofTMSA, I have witnessed firsthand the dedication and care of a team that works to create beneficial programming and a welcoming space for Muslims on campus. It has been incredibly rewarding to contribute to initiatives that help strengthen our community and create opportunities for connection. I hope to continue contributing to the work of the MSA and to bring my creativity, ideas, and commitment to supporting and uplifting our Muslim community at UOT, inshallah. And then second, we have Wasif, who is also not here today. So he says, my name is Wasif Shokrov, and I am running for the position of VP Communications for the UOT MSA. I previously served as Religious Education Director with the UOT MSA, Dawah Director, and Director of Marketing for the Pakistani Students Association at UTSC. In these roles, I work on promoting events, coordinating outreach efforts, and helping ensure that students are informed about opportunities for learning, community engagement, and spiritual growth. Through my experience in both community outreach and marketing, I saw how effective communication plays a role in the success of student organizations. Clear, timely, and engaging communication helps ensure that students are aware of programs, feel connected to the community, and are able to benefit from what the MSA offers. If elected as VP Communications, I hope to focus on strengthening how information about programs, initiatives, and resources are shared with students. This includes maintaining consistency across communication platforms and ensuring that the announcements and content are accessible, organized, and engaging for the broader campus community. The MSA has a meaningful impact on the Muslim student experience at U of T, and I would be grateful for the opportunity to contribute to that work by helping strengthen the organization's communication and outreach. All right, I will pass it off to our candidates who are here.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Ali. I'm currently a third year in my doing architecture, and I'm running for VP Comms. Over the past few years, I've always been involved with the MSA, and I feel like as I grew in the MSA, I've discovered more of what I like to do, which is graphic design and aiding people and helping them be more involved. And that is something that I really admire and I appreciate that the MSA has provided a lovely community, which I didn't expect being this big when I first came here. And my main goal is to further expand on this. I think, especially working in the past few years as a graphic designer in the committee, that I feel like the MSA needs to deviate a bit from the structure it has, which is just a lot of events. It's more like a catalog of events, and I will try to make it more like it's more involved in like student life and like the everyday average experience that a Muslim student goes through on campus. I want to do this by making it more like having a more diverse marketing strategy and building a robust marketing team. Making sure like we incorporate more things other than just graphics, and making sure like we do stuff like skits, we do vlogs, we go around, we involve more of our Muslim peers. We make them more informed about the MSA through different methods, and just have them like know that the MSA is always with them. It's not just there in the background, or it's just you can attend MSA events if you want. It's something that it really promotes you to come and do. But ultimately, inshallah, I really want to strengthen this idea of community and just a little bit.
Okay, standing up for this, so it feels like I'm giving like a hook or something. Thank you. You guys have to laugh because like I'm a little bit nervous. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Sana. So my name is Dana, and obviously I'm here running for VP Consulate, inshallah. So I just want to start off by saying, so I'm first year. The hardest part of my first year has been without a doubt, despite living at home with my family, loneliness. You know, in my program, there aren't many people who look like me, obviously, computer science. So, but alhamdulillah for everything. But I definitely understand the feeling of like, feeling out of place. And as Muslim students, we definitely we aren't meant to fit in. We have to understand that, and if anything, like we're meant to stand out, and that is part of the beauty of Islam, subhanAllah. But if I'm being honest, like I'm sure we all know, standing out can be very hard sometimes, and that only becomes easier when you find your community, and that's exactly what the MSA should be for everyone. I feel like this sounds weird, like, is it okay? Okay. Well, that's where our communications comes in. So, subhanAllah, here at the MSA, we have so many different ways of reaching people when we stop and think about it. We have the Muslim Voice magazine, our social media posts, the newsletter, the website, and all of that is facilitated by the VP columns. And I've been here to fully support each of our 5 directors and the committees in control about this, because when we think about it, there's so much power here, subhanAllah, and all of these things, what we post, how we reach people, how we represent ourselves, all of these have the capability of making someone feel included, or just making them scroll past without ever thinking about us again. Okay. So what I want for the communications is simple. I want it to be creative and welcoming to everyone. First years people are new and unsure of joining. I want to give people FOMO who don't come to our events, FOMO things. You go to that party. For us, it's gonna be like, yo, so you go to the MSA event? Oh man, I missed it. So, inshallah, we can all do that together. Thank you, Sir.
All right, Dennis, do you have the mic? Is it okay if I start with you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. So the first question I have for both of you is, as you are coming into the becomes, if you are elected, what skills do you want to bring to the MSA to help improve the position overall?
Okay, very good question. So I realized I didn't really talk about my experience, although it's like in my candidate statement. So I wasn't directly involved in the MSA this year. And that's one of the reasons I want to make it more welcoming to everyone, because I was too nervous. A lot of people are too nervous to come. So just so I was talking about this just now, so it's a perfect leeway to what I want to do. So I have sort of a little idea for each directorship, what I want to do. In terms of the website, for example, I want to keep it updated all the time. For example, I noticed there was something about office hours. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this was out of date. It was not all the office hours from one of the previous years, not this year. And I do have experience with website development. I'm working on something right now. So I think that could definitely benefit that committee, as well as I have a lot of experience doing social media posts and just marketing in general for clubs, and I work in my robotics team as well. And just reaching out to people in the community. I've been alhamdulillah volunteering with Islam for the past 2-3 years. So I have a lot of experience with reaching out to people just by talking. That goes a long way. That's how we get people to show up.
Sorry, if you guys pass the mic over. Okay, just, do you remember the question? Do you remember?
Can you repeat the question, please?
All right, no problem. And so as coming into VPCon, what kind of skills do you have that you want to bring to improve the position of the MSA overall?
Well, I think for BB Comms, it's very important that our team is very interactive with the student body. And currently, I think we're more sitting in the background. We make all the graphics and everything, but I feel like we need to be more out there. We need to be more interactive. And so I want to improve, make the role more embedded within the Muslim community in the MSA and in the UofT, because we want to encapsulate what a student goes through in their daily lives. Lost my train of thought.
No worries.
But yeah, anyway, right now we have, especially our marketing department, we need to start thinking of diverse ways and expand our media portfolio. It's not just graphics. We need to start doing different formats. Maybe some other students are drawn to maybe videos, others like reading more, others like maybe doing interviews or maybe being involved directly. So we need to diversify how we approach different topics.
All right, so here, I'm gonna take one question from the floor as well, so you can continue, so you want to question is, during my times, the role often requires for one to work around the clock in order to support the directors. This can include taking over more graphics than usual, maybe doing posting than usual, all while ensuring timeliness to respond to the director's requests. How would you navigate this?
Well, I've been doing it for a long time now. As an architect, I basically don't sleep, so that's a plus. But in general, as a graphic designer, it's it's very important that you work very efficiently, and that's something I think I've been working on, and I've done really well throughout my UofT career. Career and studying. As long don't overthink everything and use the people under your team or that work with you, because you can't just do everything alone, especially in the MSA. We're a huge team. You can't just rely on your director or your committee members just do it for you and finish it, especially if you as a VP comms, they look to you for guidance. So you need to make sure that everything is well maintained within a team and everything is structural and organized.
Okay, I don't tell me that something, yeah. So during my times, I'm sure it'd be beginning, middle of the semester type thing. My family would probably call me annoyingly stubborn or something like that, but I think that I'm very committed when I'm into something. I'm definitely into this. I'll be with my family, and if I have to submit something soon, or within a few days, I'll be working on it, no shape. And so I have no trouble taking on extra tasks if my directors aren't able to, or for whatever reason, or maybe they're just not fulfilling the responsibilities in the book. I'll do last minute stuff, and if there's anything last minute, I won't ask them. I'll do it myself because that'll be unfair to them. So for example, I had this big group project for my CS class, my most important class. It's my major, and it's been a month. It's due in 4 days. The third group member literally yesterday told us that they're not going to contribute anything, and we're okay, now we have to delegate within ourselves. But it is what it is. And gonna do that and gonna get it done. That's what needs to be done. So, yeah.
Does anybody from the room have a question?
What changes or improvements are due to TMV, the Muslim votes?
Okay, TMV. So one thing that I think is really important for like columns is including student voices everywhere. And it's in the name, Muslim Voice magazine. I think that we need to do more of, especially with TNC, because that's a place where it makes sense to do so, is get student input. You know, get student input on our events, even just like being a Muslim on campus, as I've talked about today a lot. It's difficult to be here in the West, like as a Muslim student. So all of those sorts of things can be very relatable to other students. So definitely including student voices, more experience and input on events.
So for TNV, I have two main ideas. First being a structural one, and then one being how we can be more interactive with the student body. First, looking at TNV mostly right now is just articles about student life or news or what happens. I think it needs to include a bit more like of personal connection to what happens on campus. Need to include more lives of like students and how they navigate Islam and how they navigate their studies and how that affects them, and just be a bit more relatable and incorporate overall more student voices. And another thing is to making it more relatable to students is to start incorporating more student volunteers in the journals. Anybody who really wants to like pursue journalism, who wants to like pursue their like writing and everything, this could be like a gateway to them to like maybe start like creating a portfolio, or even just building up their confidence and getting them involved in the MSA in a very short way through something that they enjoy.
All right, and just one last question. So as communications, you're often dealing with social media. That also means that you're dealing with a lot of the public and just making sure that you're communicating appropriately. What would you do in a situation where a director or another executive, you find out that they're not communicating appropriately with the general public, either through a group chat or through social media? How would you work to remedy the situation in a professional manner?
Well, there's steps to this. First, you would try to take the director aside. Don't like humiliate them straight up in front of like the committee or whatever. But take them aside, try to talk to them, give them a see maybe there's something that's bothering them. Maybe there's something they're going through. Maybe they've just been overworked or overburdened. Try to like first find the roots of this and aid them. If this is just happening just because they feel like it, they want to be, I don't know, they just love annoying people, then you would like, I guess maybe make them step down, maybe make them just maybe quietly, just maybe like take some pressure off of them, take some of the workload off of them. And because at the end of the day, it's not just maybe one director, we have multiple directors. So if one director is not cooperating, then we would take the responsibility off them. And because this is a big role, if you can't like after multiple tries, if you can't stay, then you would have to like maybe take some responsibility from you.
So yeah, I agree 100%. First, it was definitely to have a private professional conversation with the director. You know, we're all youth. We can be silly sometimes, make mistakes. So trying to understand why they're doing this. Maybe if it's really bad, this person like needs help, or this person needs like guidance. So if it's really, really bad, maybe like encourage them to break someone, things like that, or talk to someone. But you know, if it's just for the sake of it, it's just something like silly that they happen to do. Definitely next step would be to like issue an apology to whoever was affected by these actions. And if it's more of a wide scale issue, like for example, multiple group chats or multiple people experiencing misconduct, maybe issue like a wider apology, obviously not naming anyone, but you know, anonymously state, you know, we're sorry on behalf of the MSA.
Right, so that's a lot there.
Okay, so next up we have, last but not least, the role of president. If you notice, we don't have VP Finance today. We're going to have to hold a by-election, which means we're gonna have a mini election. Basically, after this, inshallah, because unfortunately, we don't have any valid nominations for VP Finance. Or at least nominations that have been accepted. So, if you're still thinking about running for MSA, there is one position left, inshallah. I'm planning to see. But yeah, so our last role, inshallah, is president. It's not.
For those of you who don't know me, my name is Aslan. I'm going through my fifth year of computer science, inshallah. Listen, I know a lot of us, when we look beyond our campus and we look at our ummah, I know a lot of us ask ourselves, how do we make a real difference? How do we make a real impact? And ultimately, that responsibility comes down to what are we doing with ourselves? How are we developing ourselves, people around us? How are we using these spaces and these communities like the MSA to raise and empower the next generation of leaders? Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said that the true believers were like bricks of a building, each brick supporting the other. And so the things we do here, the changes we make in this community, this impacts our own. And this makes a difference in the long run. And so I kind of want that to be a motivating factor next year for not just myself, but anybody who's helping them to say, inshallah. I want to focus on strengthening the community, increasing engagement, bringing people together, ideas, building growth, to ultimately to serve Allah and to serve the ummah. And alhamdulillah, like I've got to see progress being made on that this year. I worked with the OSB as a fundraising manager, and I got to see, alhamdulillah, both the MSA and the OSB have had very successful years this year, and the difference that effective leadership makes is quite important. And just a reminder to myself that this is an amana and something that will be held accountable for on the day of judgment. And inshallah, I hope to fulfill these duties and responsibilities by being sincere and genuine in my service to the community, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair.
Okay, I'm gonna start off with a question and then I'll ask everyone else. First question that we have, a long list. What do you think is one of the biggest problems facing the MSA right now, and how are you uniquely placed to solve it?
I think one thing that we can definitely work on, and this has definitely been mentioned in some of the previous answers. I kind of mentioned it in my statement as well. Like, just getting more involvement from our student body, in the sense that I think oftentimes people have this idea that they can't really do anything, they can't really make a difference, and they become passive and disconnected from the community. And so kind of reviving that sense of urgency, that sense of connection within the community, it's quite important. And ultimately that starts with the leaders, the president, the exec board, the directors even. What examples are we setting? How are we presenting ourselves as ambassadors of Islam, not just externally, but internally to the Muslims on campus, and ensuring that, us ourselves, we're setting good examples. And I think that's something that I value a lot and I want to focus on. And inshallah, something that I'm going to try to work on using the expertise of my team, inshallah.
Okay. audience questions? Anyone have questions? I got plenty, so, okay.
Yeah, like, what's your, I guess, main vision for your year? Like, what is something that you think the MSA, that is a current gap in the MSA that you personally want to fill? And if there's multiple, like.
Yeah. One big gap, I think that's present right now is the lack of first year involvement, and maybe just in general, like younger students. I think also this was mentioned, but like increasing the outreach to first year students is crucial. I mean, even this year, the amount of first year students who became aware of the MSA in the latter half of the year is like it's very shocking. And I have ideas for how I want to execute that, but it comes down to planning in the summer with my execs, how they ideas that they have. And then also I think strengthening our relationships with organizations across campus. Another thing that was mentioned is creating like fostering a welcoming environment and tapping into the groups of Muslims who maybe aren't as, for lack of a better word, like practicing. I think the Muslim chaplaincy does a great job of that. So leveraging kind of them in increasing our relationship with them could be of great benefit. And the last thing I do really want to focus on is securing like a dedicated space for Muslims that acts mainly like as a central hub, not just a musalla or just like a room or whatnot. But this is obviously a much longer goal, but it's something that I do want to start. So inshallah, those are just a few ideas I have.
Okay, we have a few questions left, so we'll do the next. Okay, the next one is, obviously as president, you have to handle a lot of conflict. How would you handle internal conflict? So for example, split decisions amongst your own executives, and external conflicts. So for example, tokenism, firstly, all the different, things that come your way.
I think, well, in terms of internal conflict, it honestly all comes down to communication. Making sure that your team is on the right page, on the same page, and understanding what everyone's different perspectives are, and hearing from everybody. That's very important. And ultimately, like the main thing here is prevention. I mean, even Islam is kind of rooted in this. Preventing getting to that stage. And with good communication, inshallah, obviously things happen, but we can try to avoid that as much as possible. And that sense of communication also helps lessen external conflict as well. And another important concept is the concept of shura, consultation. Depending on relying on previous presidents and teams, we've mentioned like the incredible like shuyukh we've built relationships with, and knowing that I'm not alone in this position. I have a team. I have a community around me that can help me in this is very important.
Okay. Often execs and directors don't have a lot of managerial experience. How will you ensure that the executive team is well prepared and knowledgeable enough to work together and lead their directors effectively?
Yeah, I think this is also another place where we can use the assistance of others. I think first, planning in the summer is crucial. I mean, even I saw this in OSP. What we did in the summer, the planning we did in the summer, really set the tone and helped us throughout the year. But again, yeah, like kind of using the strengths of previous years and using that as an example, and the people who have more experience than us, and more knowledge and more wisdom. Again, it's something that's very beneficial and very useful. So,
Or anything? Yeah, we got.
Yeah, okay, I think a very important part of the role of the president is your relationship with the execs. I guess like they're your directors. So I guess being sure that you're there for the execs is also part of the role. So how will you ensure that you will catch on to things further when there's like maybe something going on between the execs and their directors or just the exec themselves? Like surely like it takes time to establish a relationship where they come to you with things. So how will you make sure catch is on or there's some spirals first?
yeah, I think again this comes back to communication. One thing that actually really enjoyed from my work during this past year was when I first started. I had like regular check one-on-ones with my manager, and I remember the very first one, he said like these one-on-ones, they can be completely unrelated to your work and just you complaining to me and telling me things that maybe I did wrong, I haven't been well, gaps I can be filling. And that again, that sets the tone for the relationship you can have with your directors. And another thing is the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, again, he said that the true believer loves for his brother what he loves for himself. And like having that care and that support for your execs is very important and something that can again set the tone for your relationship.
Yes. Let's do. Okay, as the president, you're also responsible for leading your team and ensuring there's organizational efficiency, everything's on track. So this bigger goal of supporting the Muslim community on campus can be achieved. I'm going to address the elephant. You've not been an exec before. What are the steps? How are you going to address that while also navigating teaching a whole new exec team how to complete their own goals?
So yeah, I know I haven't been an exec, but I think one thing that I've really gained this past year is kind of a vast understanding of the different roles and responsibilities. Being with the OSP, I think I mentioned this earlier, like I really got an understanding of what the operations of the president looks like, and the steps he made and the decisions he made in what was effective, what was not effective, what is a supported leader. As well, like I was in pretty close association with a few of the execs, and so I got an understanding of what their tasks look like, how they execute tasks, even in some at some points like helping them in those tasks. So knowing what responsibilities they hold and supporting them in those, I think is something that can be pretty useful.
I'm gonna wrap two questions in one. So given that you're gonna face a big learning curve and you're gonna have to face difficult decisions that affect like thousands of students on campus while they are learning. How do you please plan on doing to ensure that you're holding yourself accountable? And then B, what we planning on doing like you avoid burning out?
So again, I think that the number one thing is just remembering with every decision that you make, like having thought of Allah and knowing that everything that you do is for the sake of Allah. When you center your decisions around that and the steps you take around that, ultimately like that's the number one thing. And what was the second part of the question? Sorry.
So there's accountability and there's burnout.
Yeah. So, and yeah, I mentioned this as well, like knowing that, at the end of the day, this is a responsibility and trust that's given from Allah, and something that I will be held accountable for is quite important to remember. And remembering that it's mainly about the intention. I can't really control the outcome. That's something that Allah controls. But if I can control the effort that I'm putting in, that's important. In terms of burnout, it's mainly about finding balance. And again, knowing that you're not alone. You have execs for a reason. They are experts in their own fields. And so balancing not trying to do everything yourself while also having trust in your execs is it's important to find.
Okay, last question, then I'm going to elaborate on the last one. At least last question for me. Like we talked a bit about burning out for yourself. How would you manage burnout for your team?
Yeah, this also comes back to being supportive of your execs and your team. Again, constant check-ins is and communication is very important. Ensuring that, I think one thing that this year that we might have done is maybe too much. Some would say, because I think after this year, a lot of people were like, okay, I don't know if I can do another year. So again, finding that balance within my team and ensuring that they're on track to not burn out is important through constant communication. And just understanding what's going on in their life and external factors that may contribute to that and supporting them in those external factors is important.
Okay, last minute. Does anyone have questions?
Continuing sort of on the train of understanding like burnout and what that might look like. I'm more so thinking like along lines you mentioned that there are always outside commitments. Sometimes, there's Ramadan, there's fitness, there's final, there's all these things that like individually all your execs and all your executives will be dealing with outside of the FSA, and that includes yourself too, right? So like say for example, if an exec came to you and said, hey, like, I'm really struggling, I feel very overwhelmed by this work, I'm not sure what to do. How would you handle that?
So I think the first thing again is planning beforehand to ensure that like we are organizing our work in a way that we don't allow for that to happen. Of course, like I said, things happen and this is very possible. And so yeah, just supporting them and ensuring that they are also using their directors. Sometimes I noticed that some of the execs often take on a bigger load of work that can often be passed on to their directors. And so kind of making that communication between the execs and directors also more streamlined is something that can be pretty beneficial. Here's the question.
Okay, so the question from Rehan, because the MSA is an organization responsible for serving the Muslim student body, an institution with such diversity of students that come with many different opinions, and some may conflict with Islamic values. He was an MSA president to ensure fairness and consideration, while also the MSA adhering to Islamic values.
This is a great question. Again, we're a team. I have seven execs on my team. And again, making sure that we're all on the same page is very important. And the main thing is just like ensuring that we're adhering to Islamic values. This is sometimes hard to follow, unfortunately. It's hard to do. But again, with the communicating with your team and with people around the community, this is something that can be kind of ironed out and discussed in more detail when these things come up. I think having constant check-ins and meetings with the team to ensure that this happens is important. I think I remember talking to a previous president when the October 7th thing happened, and they said that they just immediately held the urgent meetings, and even with university administration, those urgent meetings turned into constant kind of checking with administration. And so kind of following those footsteps and following those strengths of previous years and what they have done can be useful. So you have another question.
So I just came because they told me there was going to be some movement here, but a question I have is this year there was a lot of students that have had severe mental health breakdown, and a lot of them have had very big impacts on their community. And I'm wondering if there's any way that we can have the more streamlined method of dealing with such disasters that they occur within them.
Yeah, this is a very important topic. Again, this comes down to like how I decide to use my team. This is something that I think social advancement could really put an emphasis on. And again, planning that throughout the summer before the year starts and ensuring that we're covering all facets is very important. So.
Okay.
Before everyone gets to most, let's just give some attention to the electricity call.
Thank you. Okay, just have one more item for coming out. So voting will take place soon, inshallah. Stay tuned for announcements. I'm just going to remind everyone of the election rules. You cannot campaign. The only thing you can tell people is that there is an election and that you are running. Can't tell people go vote for Maresti. We don't want to have to disqualify people over this rule. MashaAllah, it seems like everyone's a great candidate. So please adhere to the rules. And if you would like to run, there's still an opportunity for VP Finance, inshallah. Stay tuned for the by-election details, and we will be announcing the winners, inshallah, at the farewell dinner. If you have any questions, please email us at election.uoftmsa.com. And just have to for coming.
Remind everyone that we are gathering donations for building a well in Afghanistan. This is gonna be in the name of well dedicated to Imam Ahmad.